As you know, it is October, and if you're watching National League games, it probably is Red October. Okay, so sorry, Braves fans, I did not mean to alienate you with that comment. However, the Phillies fans are very excited about that. And basically, we have to play both sides because that's how we feel. Okay, so here's the deal. Let's talk about Braves Phillies. The Phils are up 1-0, and by the time this comes out, Game 2 will have been completed. And because we were recording on Sunday night, in fact, we are in the middle of ALDS Game 2 in Houston, and we'll bring you updates as we go. Currently, Phils are up 1-0 in the NLDS, played in Atlanta right now. What I want to know is this the same old Braves, Brad? Because they've never, ever, ever, never, ever, never beaten the Phillies in a playoff series. Not even one time. What's going on?
There is such thing as October fatigue.
Of course.
How many guys played 150 games, something like that, for the Braves before they got a day off?
Lots of them.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. We'll get to it later because I have more thoughts on October fatigue.
Okay.
But I think it's a real thing. There's a reason a lot of teams will rest their guys. And granted, yes, you've got to try to win every single game because you could be like Seattle, who kind of trotted out a B team in June.
Yeah.
And tossed a game out there, and then you miss the playoffs by a game. Right? Kike Hernandez talked about that a couple weeks ago with Mookie Betts on a podcast. He said, I got out there and gave up a walk-off home run in like the 16th inning or something, like the 16th inning, I think is what it was. Yeah. He's like, and then we ended up playing game 163. He's like, I was like torn up about the thought that my team might miss the playoffs because I gave up a walk-off home run as a stupid position player pitching in an extra inning game. Right?
Totally. Yeah.
So I get it. You want to have your best guys out there every single day and try to win every single game as much as you can. But there are times you've got to be able to trust your bench and give those guys a rest. And I also understand people are going to say the players are soft now because used to everybody played 160, 61, 62 games.
Yeah, that's true.
But given medical advances we have now, we understand that's not good for you or your arm.
Yeah, 100% accurate.
So
yeah,
I think there's something to that though, that these teams come in here fresh, and I think we might be seeing that the Phillies have a deeper bench.
Well, let's also talk
or just about fresher.
The fact, well, so is it fresh because of momentum, or is it fresh because they didn't like the Braves had those days off?
Yeah, they had a week off
during the wild card. So, I mean, we come back to this, I feel like, every postseason where we have to discuss and question whether that bye week is worth it or not. And here we are dealing with it again.
Right. Yeah.
Is that the problem?
Because the only team that won game 1 who had the bye was the Astros, right?
That's it. The only one. Everybody else lost.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe it works in football because everybody can get healthy. And there's a lot more to the resting process in football. And maybe somebody needs to figure it out in baseball.
Yeah, because this can't possibly be an anomaly at this point. It just can't.
Right.
Like, it doesn't qualify anymore. There's something about it. And we don't have all the answers right now, but we do have the question, and we are going to start looking into it. I do. I want to start looking into why. I want to go back as far as bye weeks have gone and count the number of game 1 losses.
I think it's what, 2 years?
Like, I just want to know. Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's something we keep an eye on, though. We keep tracking it. And then eventually when we can, we talk to a team about it and say, what do you think you need to do differently to buck this trend? Because it really is interesting that the teams who have the bye weeks don't do well. And players have spoken out against it too. When they first brought it up, they said, I don't want that. Totally. I want to keep playing. Yeah. And so did the Rangers possibly play the scenario?
Did they play down a little bit?
Maybe they didn't want that bye week.
Interesting.
But I don't think I think if you can take an opportunity to either skip the Rays or play them, I think you're going to skip it though, right?
I think you think.
You would think that you wouldn't pick
You
the
would
Rays
think.
over not playing them,
Yeah.
even though
But
they
then they
dominated
trounced
them.
them, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Doesn't make any sense. One thing we do have to talk about was the catcher's interference call in Atlanta last
The
night.
phantom catcher's interference call.
Correct. And that is exactly what I wanted to say. I watched it. I didn't see catcher's interference. The call on the field was not overturned and it was not confirmed. The TV broadcasters did a really good job of distinguishing between the call on the field being confirmed and the call on the field standing. It was not irrefutable evidence to have overturned it, but that also means that they couldn't outright say the guy got it right either. And
Right.
based on what I saw, it was a big fat rut row got it wrong. There was no catcher's interference at all. And if you watch closely, the ball hit the bat and fouled back.
Right. Well, and you look at the path of the barrel of the bat too. It didn't look like it was anywhere near the glove.
It didn't even hit a lace. I didn't see it hitting a strand of leather hanging off at all. I mean, I would say it was laughable, but it was disgusting is what it was.
If it had happened in June, I would laugh about it. But the fact that it happened in October is what really, really grinds my gears, right?
Me too. Yeah.
That you expect the umpires to be able to get it right. And I don't know, like, so much of me has lost so much faith in umpires. And I know people are going to say, go out and do it yourself. I have. It's not easy. I get it.
Correct.
But I'm also not getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this as my full-time job.
And have been for years now.
Yeah.
In order to be even considered for a playoff position.
Right. Yep.
Here's the thing. Here's the other thing. I'm less you could choose to be upset at the team on the ground, right? At the umpire crew on the ground, specifically the guy behind home plate. You can be upset at him. That's just fine. But I'm really angry at the team in New York that has access to all of the camera angles, all of the technology, the ability to slow everything way down. And I would think more than just a handful of eyes and ears to talk it over. So that's the group I'm upset with. That's like, and if they saw something we didn't see, where is the very public evidence, right? And it's just a big echo chamber every time they drop it over to review, and it goes back to New York. I'm really, that's who I'm going to place my blame with.
Yeah, and it is really frustrating because it's sometimes you see something and like as you're watching the review, you're like, oh yeah, for sure, like it's gonna get overturned. But then they come back and it's like, I feel like somebody has somebody's back here.
Yes.
Right? Like that's really what it feels like. And sometimes, and I don't want to say there's collusion or like it's like shady or anything, right? But it feels like that. But there's other times where you see something that's like so certain. You're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be real quick, and then they take way too long on it, and they come back, and you're like, wait, are we sure that's what they told the umpire? Are we sure he just doesn't have his buddies back out on second base in this situation? Like,
right.
You know, like it really does feel like that sometimes, both ways. That it's just like, but then in New York, they're not going to come out and be like, "Oh, he said," you know, because that makes everybody look bad.
Totally,
makes the system look broken, which
it is, and I think it is.
Yeah,
there's a good chance. I think the fact that there's so much opportunity for us to question it is the problem. At it, maybe not the root problem. There may be something deeper going on. But the fact that we can sit here and go, okay, clearly from point A, the call on the field, to point B, the challenge, with C being what they show on the video replay board on the field and what they show on television, which is very often the same thing. And then what they're seeing in New York, that's the gap from C to D, right? What we can see versus what they can see. Where's the gap? What do we not get to see that you can see?
And I wonder, because they show a lot of different angles, right? That like as they're going through the replay, they show us a lot of different angles. And I don't know if we're seeing the same thing they're seeing, but at the same time, though, I'm sure they're not looking at a single screen. I'm sure they've got like a quad box going, whatever.
Yeah,
To
for
look
sure.
at everything and figure out how to get it right. But it really is just like so frustrating. And it's like in the NBA after the Tim Donaghy thing, it's like, are some of these games fixed, And then the
Right.
NBA came out and they're like, we're going to be transparent and let you know guys miss calls. So they have the last 2-minute report that talk about that go through every single missed call. Like so and so called the foul at a minute 25 when he shouldn't have. It was a clean steal. It's like, okay, that doesn't do anything but let me know that the referees are getting it wrong because they're not correcting anything.
Right.
Right. And so it's like, I know the NBA has done that to help remedy the situation and instill confidence in the fans, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. I don't think it would be right for Major League Baseball to come out and be like, yeah, their challenge, they should have won their challenge. That wasn't catcher's interference.
They're never going to do that.
Because that throws the umpires under the bus. That instills even less confidence in us and the umpires and the replay process.
Yes.
But then it's like, okay, so who else is Major League Baseball willing to throw under the bus?
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's necessarily a right solution to the problem besides them just doing better or maybe citing what they did or didn't see.
That's what I need. I need better communication, and I need it to not leave the stadium. I don't want an umpiring crew or some supervision guy back whoever, wherever, somewhere else. Put like with the NFL, put me in a box. Let me go over every single thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we powwow. Hey, did you see this? Come look over here. Yeah. Okay. I saw it. Get back in the box. Yeah. That's what I saw. Vote on it on the field and be done.
That's the thing that makes me the absolute craziest about this whole thing is that they send it off to New York and the umpire's just standing there with the headsets on.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. I'll let you know what they say.
Okay.
As though my authority on the field is only good until somebody says, I don't believe you. And then I got to go call mom and dad. Like, that's it.
Yes. Do the NFL thing where you have an eye in the sky, or college football, how they have their replay booth, right?
Right.
Have somebody in the stadium. And you know what, Brig? The umpire union should love this because you know what it does? It creates a job.
It's exactly
way more jobs. That adds one more umpire, if not two, to every single crew.
That's right.
So,
and their job is to be the final decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they have a crew chief. I got it. But maybe the crew chief is the fifth umpire on the field. I don't know. There's got to be something that can be done. The fact that it leaves ground zero and goes to somebody else is the segment of the process that makes me squeamish.
And from the very beginning, that's the one that got me. That I was like, why have a review center in New York instead of having somebody at the stadium who can queue it up for you?
I don't understand. Let's move on. One of the things we have to do is to remind everybody in the baseball world to keep your trash to yourself. Stop throwing it on the field. I don't care who you're rooting for. I don't care where it is. That is just, it's just not okay, man. I don't care how frustrated you are. I'll tell you what I told my kids, which is we need to find more appropriate ways to express our emotions. That's it.
Yep. That's spot on.
Thanks.
That's a great way to put it. I like that.
Let's move to the Dodgers and the D-backs. All right.
Oh boy.
The D-backs are now, oh man. Did anybody see this coming? Like, just wait. I know that there's half of a bunch of people who hoped for it, but didn't feel like this was ever going to happen. The other half is like, no way. And then here we are. So the D-backs went up.
Yeah, tell what happened, and then I'll tell you something I found after.
Okay, the D-backs went up 1-0. They won game 1 on Saturday. 11-2. I don't even know. Like, how else are you supposed to feel? The Dodgers, 2 runs came in the 8th inning. It took them to the 8th inning to score a run. They came in the 8th inning when they were already down 11-0. Now, here's the thing that just is insane. It's just insane. Clayton Kershaw had the shortest start not just of his postseason efforts, but of his entire career. And his postseason capabilities have been called into question for years now. Years. And here we go again. And the poor guy, God, I really do feel so bad for him. And it sucks that we have to bring it up and call him out. But here's what happened. Clayton Kershaw's final line from Saturday's game 1 in the NLDS was one third of an inning pitched. He recorded 1 out. In that time, he gave up 6 runs. They're all his, obviously. They're all earned. He gave up 1 walk, 1 home run, and he threw 35 pitches. That's it. Took him 35 pitches to not only record an out, but to get called to get the hook. They got him out. This is by far the worst of it. Okay, this is as bad as it'll ever get. How could it possibly get worse than this?
Right. Yeah.
But why is this the problem with Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs, Brad?
So I have a theory.
Okay.
About this. Because I was texting one of my friends the other day. She said, why? Like, what the heck? Like, why is he one of the greatest regular season pitchers ever, but he cannot do it in the postseason? Thing, I thought it's got to be, and I don't want to say he's out of shape, but it's got to have something to do with conditioning. Because think about this, Brig. Every single year, this is playoff Kershaw. This is what we get. Like you said, this is the worst of all that we've seen, but it's somewhere along these lines. It's somewhere, and after the whole thing with the Astros, we kind of chalked it up to like, oh, they knew it was coming. That's why it got that way. But it's
totally fair.
Happened before then, since then. The only time that he's been regular season Kershaw during the playoffs was during 2020.
Short season, right?
Short season. And so I'm like, man, it's got to be something to do with the length of the season that he just does not have it by the time he gets to October and he's facing the best.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing I can think of. And I found this on X the other day. Bob Nightingale, this was before game 1, said Dodgers manager Dave Roberts says this is the best Clayton Kershaw has felt in the last couple of months entering game 1 on Saturday. And then the thread, Brig, this was before the game. The thread, people were like, so we all know how that's going to go because we've seen this before.
Oh, no.
There were people all through that thread saying it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. He's going to get shelled. And I was reading that. I was like, we should have seen this coming. Because time and time again, This is what happens.
Yeah.
I think we don't want it to happen. We want to give him the benefit of the doubt because of who he is.
Absolutely.
Right? We're just like, man, he's gonna make the next step. He's gonna make the next, but he just doesn't. He hasn't. And I feel bad. I feel badly about it because I would love for him to do really well. I love Clayton Kershaw.
I agree.
Right? But it's unfortunate that this is who he is in the postseason, apparently.
I just looked it up. His regular season ERA is 2.48. That's along his whole career. His postseason ERA along his career is 4.49. He's pitched 194 and a third innings in the postseason. That's nearly 2 runs on the ERA of a bump from regular season to postseason.
Does that include his 162 ERA from Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true because it's probably not going to have a whole lot of weight if it's only 1 out.
Nope.
So,
they're saying, and I don't want to give this a ton of clout yet, but what I did read in a headline from yesterday, and I'm reading it right now, Dodgers expect Clayton Kershaw to pitch again versus the Diamondbacks despite embarrassing start in NLDS Game 1.
Yeah.
That is from CBS Sports. Who knows where the source truly comes from?
Dave Roberts.
He said he's going to put him back out there.
He said the only decision is to pitch him in Game 4 if that's what it comes to. So he's going to go back out there. So, yeah. And I think you have to. You have to give him an opportunity to redeem himself.
You do, but why not? Okay, so when Texas, and we'll get into this next or so. Texas, we all thought that they were going to bring in Dunning to start game 1, but they didn't.
Okay.
They brought in Andrew Haney, and Haney came out and threw 3 2/3, and then they brought out Dunning, and he threw 2 innings. Why not do something like that with Kershaw? Why not start somebody else, get him through 2 innings, put a lid on everything, set some kind of tone, and then trot Clayton Kershaw out, or flip it. I don't know. You got to do something different.
I think he goes out there with a short leash.
Yeah, but how much shorter do you get than a third of an inning?
1 out. Yeah,
he's got to face 3 batter minimum, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So I don't know what else. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. I have no idea how to I don't know how to handle it. But I think out of respect for a guy, you've got to send him back out there, though. Right?
I agree. You got to give him
especially somebody
chance,
like him.
but you don't have to start him.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Clayton Kershaw met the bed. All right. The D-backs put up 3 more in the second, but ultimately it came down to their anyway. They slaughtered the Dodgers. It was crazy.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, we will have seen game 2, and we'll bring your analysis for that on Thursday. So stay with us when we go live on YouTube, Twitch, and on Facebook Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time. All right. Now, Brad's got something he finds really interesting about the American League going into Sunday night's games. Why don't you tell us that, Brad?
Right. This is super interesting. So the best division, or what was touted as the best division all year long, right, until recent, I want to say until like 2 weeks left in the season, really, or maybe a month left in the season, was the American League East.
For sure.
Okay, but the American League West got real sneaky there at the very end.
They did.
Competitive. But so far in the playoffs, coming into Sunday night's game, this is before game 2 between the Twins and the Astros. The AL East is 0-6 so far in this postseason. The AL West is 5-0. But currently we have the Twins up 6-0 in the 7th inning. And that could end up going to 5-1. But Chas McCormick just dropped one into left field, and that was a little bit of a disastrous defensive play for the Twins. So we'll see.
Well, it was pretty shallow left, and I mean it was perfectly, sixes between the left fielder and Correa. Sure,
it was close. This is the thing. Correa should have peeled off and let the left fielder get it. He shouldn't have been out there.
100%.
He could have made a sliding catch and gotten that,
if not even sliding. He could have. If Correa's big old body wouldn't have been in the way, that guy could have probably sailed right underneath it.
He slammed on the brakes.
He did.
So,
but Pablo Lopez is on the bump right now, and he's thrown 99 pitches with 6 1/3. So everything's fine with a 6-run lead. It's gonna be all right.
For now, you would think, but
yeah, you would. That's right, but
you never know with Houston. That's the crazy thing. You never know with those dudes.
You're right.
Anyway, let's talk.
Okay, Rangers and Orioles. This is like, I don't even know. Like, I know last season and the beginning of this season, I was talking about how the Rangers they're good. I like them, etc. I was saying something special's happening, whatever. But I started to discount them through the latter part of the season. I think it makes sense why. But this is super rut-row right now for Bird fans, right? This is bad. Game 1, Texas wins 3-2. Super competitive game. Really exciting. Really loved it. Kind of a bummer for Birds fans, for the Baltimore fans. But ultimately, not a sky is falling situation. It was a tight game. Super fun. The Rangers pitching is what crushed it, right? The Haney came out 3 2/3 of innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk. Okay,
that's the thing right here. Okay, go ahead. Okay. And I think this is Bochy right here. Go ahead.
This is it. Then Dunning, whom I said earlier we thought was going to start, he comes out, 2 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk. Okay, and then the bullpen. allowed only one hit for the remainder of the 3 1/3 innings, and they walked a few people, but then the rest of the defense shut it all down, and it didn't matter.
And this is
They stranded guys.
how, Brig, you work your way around a bad bullpen. You have a great starting rotation, really, really good starters. You work them through and try to make yourself a 3-game series, get yourself some rest so those guys can be ready for the championship series, and you piggyback them.
Yeah, just like that.
Give your guys Jordan Montgomery and Nathan Uvalde, give them a chance to go deep. But a guy like Heaney, piggyback him with Dunning. Absolutely.
Perfect.
For sure.
And they crushed it, man. One thing we do need to address, the Gunnar Henderson was on first base in the 8th inning, and he attempted to steal second base. They threw him out by a mile. Jonah Heim did from behind the plate. And we learned today that Aaron Hicks was supposed to receive the hit and run signal and just didn't. He didn't even swing at it. The ball was away. He did nothing to he didn't even swing, right? He didn't even lean in front of the ball, nothing. And so Jonah Heim had an absolute clear shot at second base, threw a bullet, pinpoint accurate as he does. Gunnar Henderson was out by a mile. Serious problem. And anyway, the cool part about this story is that Gunnar Henderson didn't do anything to send Aaron Hicks under the bus. Not a thing. He could have.
That is cool.
He didn't. It wasn't until later, after he'd been asked about it and everybody let him off the hook, it wasn't until later that we learned that Hicks missed the signal.
Yeah, I like that. That's it always reminds me of Little Big League when he sends the hit and run sign out there and the batter ignores it. Yeah. And they're like, "You second guessing yourself there?" And he's like, "No, I think if I'd have to do it again, I'd call hit and run." Oh, yeah. Shoot.
So then game 2 says Texas wins 11-8. And this wasn't. I'm going to say it wasn't as close as the.
It didn't feel that close.
Feel.
There was a time it was like, what was it? It was like 8-5, and the Orioles had the bases loaded. And I was like, okay, here we go. But then they didn't do anything with it, right?
Exactly.
So
now this comes on the back of a grand salami. Texas had 5 runs going into the 3rd. They scored 9 runs. By the start of the 4th, Mitch Garver hit a grand slam in the 3rd. But until then, I think this is the coolest part. All of Texas's runs came on singles and doubles. It was just straight up baseball, just small ball. Super cool. Now, Garver's grand slam is only the 2nd postseason grand slam in Rangers history. So for you trivia buffs out there, that's really exciting.
That's crazy.
Isn't that? I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So Baltimore came up with 3 runs. Well, they had 5 runs, and then they had a 3-run 9th inning, but it was a little too late by then. So
yeah, I was looking at that because I was actually surprised the final score was 11-8. But it's kind of like the Orioles. I think given their recent offensive struggles, they can kind of go in and be like, "Hey, fellas, we put up 8 today. Like, we're heading in the right direction." It's like, yeah, but we gave up 11. So, what do you do,
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they put up 8. It feels like they squoze 8 in.
Yes.
Somehow. I don't know. It just has a different vibe to it.
But you know what, though, Brig? I don't think Baltimore gets swept. I don't know if they'll win the series because I think they've got some offensive issues they're dealing with that go way deeper than anything that this series has shown. Because they showed a graphic before this game today where, like, Cedric Mullins was like 2 for his last 35, and he wasn't the only guy struggling like that. They've had some major slumps. That's like 2 weeks.
Mullins is due, and he spent so much time on the IL this year that you wondered if he was ever going to come back and be hot. Same with Mountcastle. He spent so much time on the IL this season. And it's a little bit too bad because I feel like the rest of the pieces are there. It's just interesting to see what a couple of guys struggling can do to bring a team bring a team down. But let's wrap this up with the Astros versus the Twins. Houston leads the series 1-0 after a 6-4 win on Saturday. This game was closer than I expected it to be, a lot closer. And it was very exciting after Justin Verlander tossed 6 scoreless innings.
Right, that's the thing. Is you get guys like Verlander who come out there and it's like, well, this is not a very fun game to watch.
Yeah,
I get he's doing his thing, but man,
yeah. He left with a 5-0 lead, and the game was obviously pretty well in hand after the 6th. So the Twins homered a couple of times to make it close in the 7th, and then Yordan Alvarez answered back in the bottom half of the 7th inning. Little insurance run there. But anyway, Framber Valdez.
This is game 2. Sorry.
Yeah, in game 2, which we're watching right now, it's currently 6-0 in favor of Minnesota. Top of the 8th, no outs. Kepler at the plate, Montero on the bump, throwing 14th, 15th pitches. So it looks like Pablo Lopez got taken out. So that's
he went 7 full.
Yeah. That's really awesome. But he doesn't have his jacket on or anything. He doesn't look like he's gone to the clubhouse. Do you think they'll bring him back for the bottom of the 8th?
No, I don't think so. They don't need to.
Think so
I think it makes perfect sense to pull him at this point. He tossed to Jim. You don't send him out there just for the sake of sending him out there when he's already thrown 100+ pitches at this point.
I agree.
Let your bullpen wrap it up, seal this thing off, and go worry about game 3 on what, Tuesday? On Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, in Minnesota.
There you go.
In front of the home team. Oh, boy, in front of the home crowd. That's exciting for Minnesota fans.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing. You always want, when you're the road team, like lose game 1, no big deal. Who cares? Because you win game 2. If you split that series, you now have home field advantage until you lose at home.
That's right.
So, because if they win games 3 and 4, it's done, and they never have to go back to Houston. At this point, like the Dodgers are in big trouble because they've lost at home.
Yeah,
right. It's like, well, shoot.
I agree. So we'll bring you Pablo Lopez's final line and exactly what happened at the finale of this game 2 on Thursday, and by then you'll have game 3. But Framber Valdez got touched on a bit in this one. He threw 4 1/3 innings, 5 runs, all of which he earned, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks, and he gave up 1 home run. And that's a little uncharacteristic of Framber Valdez. And
I feel like that's been him this year though. And then because if he gets out there and he pitches, if this series goes 5 and he goes out there and pitches game 5, he's going to shut him down. He's going to go 6-7 innings and give up 3 hits, no runs, and strike out 8. He was very up and down this year. Like his very next outing after he threw that no hitter, he got beat up.
He got shelled. Yeah, totally.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. If we see him again in this series and in the postseason.
Final tidbit for you: Carlos Correa has 2 or 3 RBIs in this game so far. I can't remember exactly, but he's got
at least 3. I'm going to check to make sure he doesn't have more because he might have more, but since we put this together.
We checked. Yeah. Well, I'll read this now while you're looking at that. He's got 3 RBIs. Okay. Carlos Correa, 3 RBIs. He is now the 3rd in postseason history, all-time baseball. Postseason history RBIs. So let me say that in a different way that makes way more sense. He has now the 3rd most RBIs in Major League Baseball postseason history. That's what I meant to say. Okay, so this puts him at 63 or 64. I can't.
63. It's 63.
63. He did it on a bases loaded single and drove in 2 runs. That's 63. Now he sits only behind Manny Ramirez at number 2. He has 78 career RBIs in the postseason. And none other than Bernie Williams holds the number 1 slot with 80 postseason RBIs.
You know that I was a little surprised that it was Bernie Williams at the top, but then at the same time, I wasn't really.
No way.
Because he was the dude. He's the dude who comes through. Like,
Yeah, he always came through smooth as smooth.